Justice Marie-Josee Hogue released her final report today, chairing a public inquiry into foreign interference for well over a year. The final report addresses how government deals with intelligence concerns and lays out a number of recommendations aimed at protecting Canadian democracy from outside influence. For some reaction to the report, we're now joined by the Minister for Democratic Institutions, Ruby Sahota. Minister, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, you know, it's interesting because not long after we saw Justice Hogue take to the dais today, your government released a statement, you and the Minister for Public Safety, and you thanked the Commission for its work. But at the same time, the Commission had this to say about your government, that it has been a poor communicator about the extent of foreign interference that it detected and the means in place to counter it, and that it must find ways to be more transparent. So I'm wondering what you take from that statement. Is your government prepared to be more open, to be more transparent about intelligence concerns and how it's being dealt with?
Well, I've reviewed the report. There's more parts to review. I want to first thank Justice Hogue and the whole Commission for undertaking the work that they have. It was a lot of work. You know, she outlines the amount of witnesses, the amount of documents that the team had to go through. And so I do think that it's a very valuable report for government, but for all Canadians. And I hope that many get the chance to, see the recommendations and other things. It's brought awareness for Canadians, so I think the inquiry was really important. In terms of that comment, we don't deny that there have been issues, but I think Justice Hogue also points out that the government has been active on this front and that we've put in place many measures. So I want to also say that she, in part recognizes the work of the government, and she calls our systems robust. And so I think that's the starting point of the report, that robust, we have.
But is it transparent enough? Because that's what she's trying to get with that statement, this idea that in this democratic society, it is far better for governments, institutions, to be open with what they're dealing with rather than, speculation filling in a vacuum when people have questions.
Well, you're right, but I think robustness is the most important thing, because at the end of the day, Canadians want to feel secure and reassured that their elections are safe from foreign interference. And so I think the finding that the 2019, 2021, and I'm confident the 2025 election will also be free and fair is a very, very important one, and that our democratic institutions are secure and safe. Transparency, yes, we've been working on that for a while, right? That's why we now have the NSI, the National Security Advisor, been given a mandate letter to communicate across agencies, so there's better communication. We are working on improving the flow of that information. That was a huge part of Justice Hogue's report, and in terms of questioning during the inquiry. So we understand that there is more work to do, but we've put in place a lot of mechanisms, and she mentions this as well, mechanisms and programs in place so that Canadians can feel safe and that they are safe. So that's really important. Of course, we can be better on transparency, but like you've seen, there are a lot of confidential, classified documents that go behind this. And Justice Hogue also mentions that it's really important for us to take care when talking about intelligence and how we do that in the public sphere. So that's also very important.
Which
so we need to meet the balance.
Yeah, which I understand that they're balanced. But Justice Hogue did, for example, in this report, strikes her own balance in essentially addressing things which the government might have been hesitant to address over security issues. She was able to find a path. She also talks about the overseeing body when it comes to elections and the bar that's met when you have to tell the public that there's been foreign interference involved. And one of the things that she recommends is, for example, appointing another member to that body that would actually be in charge of communicating to the Canadian public. So again, to the issue of transparency, is that something that the government is committed to moving forward on to make sure transparency is had, and that when there are issues of concern, the Canadians are being informed about it?
It's conversation that has already started. Actually, that's the site task force that was established by our government to be able to provide oversight when it comes to elections, but also now they are providing advice to different parties, and the Liberal Party in particular at this time, because they're going through a leadership race, by-elections. It's really been an important measure. And absolutely, we would consider bringing on an independent third person that can be that communication person. This is something that the clerk of the Privy Council has also communicated to the site task force. And it's also, he's just a couple of days ago put out more communications as to how they can improve their communications plans. And we're absolutely open to that.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing that you, along with the Public Safety Minister, did not long after Justice Hogue addressed the Canadian public about her final report was announce the fact that your government will be investing over $70 million in new funds to address foreign interference. Why did these funds have to wait for the report, for the Commission to issue its final report, rather than just getting ahead of the game and announcing that long before today?
Well, first, Michael, what I want to say is we've been ahead of the game. This is an evolving landscape when it comes to foreign interference, and Justice Hogue mentions that as well, that the types of actions and the threat levels on the ground has been increasing over time. But we are one of the countries that other countries look to, the rapid response mechanism, which we're funding again, so that we can have more staff in global affairs to be able to monitor the election system. This is a G7 joint approach. Because of our rapid response mechanism, France has also put one in place. We were the first when it comes to putting forward a protecting democracy plan, the first country in the world. So I think there's a lot to be proud about when it comes to the measures that our government has taken. We are the only government to really have made movement in this space. And of course there's more work to do. So we're going to continue doing that work. A lot of those things were already underway. That's not something that we just announced after seeing the recommendations of the report. Obviously, that was work that was ongoing, but we thought it would be a great complement for the day that the report came out, for us to also make sure that we're showing the continuation of the work that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Now, part of the money, again, more than $70 million now being announced, $44 million of that will go to Elections Canada, with an additional $9.8 million in each year that falls. And that's essentially giving more funds so that the agency has the power to investigate and to go after any irregularities and things that they might question. I'm wondering how far that would go, because Justice Hogue talks about Elections Canada. Elections Canada also believes that nominations need to be, party nominations, leadership races need to be monitored more effectively. Does your party agree with that? And I know that it says only Canadian citizens and permanent residents are allowed for the leadership, but in terms of codifying essentially that Elections Canada would have oversight over areas that traditionally have only been party matters, is that something that the Liberal Party is willing to do?
Well, I'm here as a spokesperson of the government,
yes,
but of course I am a Liberal member of Parliament. And so I am pleased to see that they have taken some measures, which you've just mentioned about PRs and citizens. And I am pleased to also see that they're being regularly briefed by the site task force. I hope that they too will be reading this report and taking measures to make sure that our party system, and not just the Liberal Party, but all parties across the board, don't have the vulnerabilities that Justice Hogue has mentioned in her report. So I'm really hoping that they do take those measures. When it comes to codifying these things, that's something, once again, we are open to. We're open to all of the recommendations in the report. It's a very lengthy report, as you've seen. So we're working, and I have a team assigned to, figuring out how we can continue to improve on some measures. Some measures have already been completed, and others that we think that we agree with undertaking.
I agree with undertaking. I know we're quickly running out of time, but I do have to ask you, because Justice Hogue does also refer to parliamentarians needing regular training. Do you think parliamentarians are getting enough training? Does that need to be more formalized as intelligence and foreign interference, thanks to technology, becomes more complex for every Canadian?
Well, see, that's not something that solely belongs in the realm of what government can do, but also it's a Parliament issue. issue. It's an issue for CSIS as well, and I think over time we've seen CSIS is trying to evolve so that they are more forthcoming and more transparent. They've put in place these threat reduction measures so that they can brief people in order to reduce if they're a target of some type of foreign interference, and that has been done. If you read the report, there have been many instances in the last several years where CSIS has gone and briefed a member of parliament. And so I think that's important. I think they need to continue on that. I think they need to broaden that scope, of course. Minister LeBlanc previously had also advised that, any especially after the incident with Michael Chong, that any parliamentarian that has come up in CSIS's intelligence, that parliamentarian should be warned if there is any type of threat or intelligence collection or anything like that happening. So the agencies are working to be better, to being more open, to making sure that parliamentarians are aware, but all Canadians are aware, right? And the Commission has taken a lot of steps in that, and our government has well too. There's another part of the announcement today, the Digital Citizen Initiative, and that's a really, really important measure to make sure that Canadians understand the threat landscape and they know how to be more aware of things happening, and also disinformation. That's one of the largest concerns that Justice Hogue and I share that concern currently, and that's an area I think that we're all going to have to put our heads together to figure out, how we address that going forward.
Yeah, well, without a doubt, the final report raises a lot of issues and a lot of recommendations. Minister, thank you very much for speaking to us so early in the game.
Thank you.
Thank you.